In my experience, more and more people want to make money through business, not by working for someone else. And despite all the difficulties that aspiring businessmen face, people still create new businesses. True, most of these businesses die in the first years of life, unfortunately, but the desire to create something of your own is respectable. In addition, the negative experience of creating a business is a very useful experience, a very valuable experience. And businesses do not die by chance, not because they are not well thought out and weak, but because the people who create them do not start with the right thing. Business is not just a type of activity, it is a way of life and a way of thinking, without which it is impossible to achieve great success in something. In general, in this article one will explain to you where a business begins, so that you understand what you need to do to yourself to become a businessman before you create your own business. So, let's turn our attention to a person who has never been involved in business before and see how he understands this type of activity. This could be a student of yesterday or today or an employee who has decided to quit his job and start making money through business. In order to get the information he needs, this person opens, say, a book on business, or reads an article on this topic, trying to find out where he should start doing business. And what does he learn? He gets general information about what business is and who businessmen are. He learns that businessmen must be self-confident people, that they must be persistent, smart, flexible in their decisions, must be able to overcome various difficulties, and so on and so forth. And so the person reads such books and articles and thinks that all this is some kind of general information that is of little use, in a word, complete nonsense, not applicable to life, because all these books and articles are lacking specifics. And what does he understand by specifics? By specifics he means a certain algorithm which, if followed, allows a person, a businessman, to earn money, including big money, because what's the point of doing business for pennies? That is, he needs detailed instructions on what and how to do in order to start making money with the help of business. He even needs to know how to register an individual entrepreneur or LLC, where and how to rent an office, etc. And he also needs guarantees. He must be sure that by doing this and that he will definitely make money. Do you understand what all this means? This means that we are not talking about a businessman in spirit and mind, but about an employee who does not know how to think with his head and who needs to write down every step on paper. A budding businessman wants to get a kind of universal business plan that will always and at all times bring money to the one who implements it, and he wants to find such a business plan in a book or in an article. Moreover, this business plan must guarantee him success and nothing else. Friends, this is complete nonsense. Just think about the very meaning of what we call business. It is an activity that is unpredictable by its nature, in which there can be no guarantees, because business is, in essence, hunting. Today you shot the game, and tomorrow you don't. What guarantees can there be? What algorithms? A person provides all this for himself if he is a real businessman. The conditions for doing business are different everywhere. Besides, for each business there is a suitable and unsuitable time. All this and much more must be taken into account. Once upon a time, it was possible to bring cheap rags from China and Turkey and resell them with 1,000% markup on the market and thus earn very good money. I know people who, with the help of such trade, earned enough for several apartments, houses, cars. And what about today? And today every dog sells rags. Today it is no longer a business, but some kind of crap on which you can't really earn anything. Do you know why? And because it is a generally accessible type of activity, today even a person with 3 years of education can buy goods at a wholesale price and then resell them at a retail price at another. From a business, such trade has turned into a job where the most ordinary people work, with the most ordinary thinking, who, although they call themselves businessmen and entrepreneurs, are not actually such. And they are not them because they are not able to come up with anything new. They cannot even come up with a new wrapper for an old product, but instead stupidly imitate the majority of other people. You may not agree with me on this, but I believe that imitators are not businessmen or entrepreneurs by their character and way of thinking. They are hired workers. And it does not matter that they work for themselves. If they share crumbs with other such businessmen, they are not engaged in business, but perform boring, routine and unprofitable work, like the most ordinary workers. Sometimes you go into a large shopping pavilion and see a multitude of trading modules standing in a row, filled with the same goods at practically the same price. And a seller sits in this fenced capsule, hoping that someone will come in and buy something. These sellers, like fishermen, have huddled together in one place and are sitting, waiting for someone to bite. And this is what is called business, small business. Friends, this is not a business, it is ugliness. Therefore, in principle, there cannot be any specifics in a normal, honest book on business, or rather, they can be, but in small quantities, and they should in no case occupy a central place in this issue. What the hell specifics? In business the main thing is thinking, not instructions. Study the business plans of various companies, business cases, other people's practices, if you need specifics, but keep in mind that by following the beaten path, you will not earn much money, because where many people have already gone, you will not find big money, almost everyone has already collected it. You need to change your thinking in order to become a real businessman, your thinking. You cannot think like a slave and try to create a business. You cannot be an excellent nerd and count on the fact that in business everything is subject to strict laws that are never violated by anyone. Business is a war for which you need to be a fighter, not an imitator or a good performer. Yes, imitators can also make money, but not always and not everywhere. It all depends on what the businessman imitates and how. Imitation is a monkey's job, not a business, which is inextricably linked with creativity. Imitation in business is like constantly eating scraps. Improvisation is important in business. It must be able to adapt to the existing reality, must be able to find new solutions to old problems, must be able to create new tempting offers for its partners and clients. Business books and other people's experience give only a general understanding of how business works, and everything else, all the details, the businessman must think out himself. A real businessman must be able to surprise people, and not be a gray mediocrity. So, friends, business begins with free, creative thinking, which a person needs to develop in himself. This is what a real businessman should focus on first and foremost. But in order to develop such thinking, you need to completely abandon the slavish concept, according to which someone will constantly tell you what and how to do. How to do this? The law of negation, one of the main laws of dialectics, will help you. Reject everything that other people have ever stuffed into you. If your knowledge, your experience, your worldview, your borrowed opinion have led you nowhere, throw all this crap out of yourself into the trash. If you are a servant and not a master, then you are the bearer of someone else's ideology, someone else's slave ideology, to be more precise. From birth you are free and empty, and then they stuff you with all sorts of nonsense that makes you either a master or a slave. And this nonsense has led you to where you are now. It has made you who you are at this moment. Now, in order to become a different person, you need to give it up. You need to deny your past so that you can come to a new present. Just as a caterpillar hatches into a butterfly, so a real businessman must hatch from you. Not a copycat, collecting crumbs, but a businessman skimming the cream. I feel that many of you doubt that you personally will be able to offer something special to this world and create your own business with it. While you want to do it, even the simplest business, but you want to not work for your ghoul boss. Well, okay, you can start with imitation. After all, the world is arranged in such a way that genius is the exception, not the rule. But you can't imitate constantly and in everything. Over time you must strive for creativity, as all the truly great businessmen and leaders in history did. Believe me, trading socks, cars, real estate, oil and securities are the same thing. Why? Because this is someone else's game by someone else's rules, which you join, becoming a millionaire of some kind. And if you play this game by the same rules as everyone else, you will never win in it, you will never hit the jackpot. Well, you might earn money on a Lexus, at the expense of even less developed primates, greedy for all sorts of marketing tricks, like Papuans for beads. But for truly outstanding results, you need to play your own game, by your own rules. Of course, if you succeed in your unoriginal business, for example, develop a super company that will manufacture super socks, thanks to the sale of which you can get money and generally become a cool person, then this can be called a success. But it is much more profitable and effective, although more difficult, to approach old questions from a new angle, or even better, to pose your own question and let other people answer it. That is, you need to create a new, unique offer for society, for the world, to stand out against the background of a huge number of gray businessmen copycats. For example, who said that you have to eat at McDonald's? What kind of self-respecting person would eat slop in this cafeteria? Let's offer people something new, high quality, profitable, and even something our own, native, some kind of restaurant chain called, say, Medvedjonik, which will have real, healthy, natural, affordable and damn tasty food. Why the hell are we promoting someone else's brand? Why do we need McDonald's? Why do we need someone else's culture? Why dance to someone else's tune? Are we, as Hitler said, an inferior race or something, which can only be a bearer of someone else's culture? Have we forgotten how to think for ourselves? Only an inferior race can imitate and mindlessly copy someone else's culture, while a superior race creates its own culture and develops it. I say that you need to go, not to McDonald's, but to Medvedjonik, where instead of the shit that poisons the human body, they will offer people normal, homemade and at the same time relatively fast, inexpensive and, of course, tasty food. And to advertise this chain of restaurants, you need to hire the most beautiful and healthy women and men, so that everyone can see who eats at Medvedjonik. This is what I call a business worthy of a superior race, to which any person can consider themselves, regardless of their nationality and other conventions, but having a sense of self-worth, a sense of freedom and creative thinking. We should not imitate others, but develop something of our own, in order to respect ourselves and earn good money. And when a person asks himself the question, what should I do and how to start a business, then he is not a businessman, by character and intelligence. He is a mercenary, a hired worker, with the thinking of a poor man. A businessman does not ask what and how he should do, he himself tells others how they should do it. A businessman is a leader. And do not refer to all sorts of knowledge, without which it is supposedly impossible to start a business, because business is not a job. For it you do not need to have too much knowledge, for it you need to have a developed mindset and the ability to influence people. And I will repeat once again that it is possible and even necessary to imitate in business, but not always and not in everything, and only at the very beginning, when you are just learning this way of making money. Understand the essence of business. Develop something of your own. Come up with your own gimmick. Otherwise, you will disappear among other such useless businessmen. Do you want to make a lot of money from your business? Great. Make it different from other similar businesses. Let's say, if you open a dental clinic, then ask yourself, how will you be better than others? Why should I come to you for dental treatment? Where is the guarantee that you will treat me well, better than other doctors? Prove to me that you are not a swindler, a half-educated person who will ruin my health for my money. Prove to me that I will receive quality service at a fair price. What? Advertising, you say? Go away with your advertising. You will be the one to trick brainless Papuans with your bright advertising, and I will never come to you, because I know nothing about you, and I am not going to take anyone's word for it. If you do not convince me that you are better than other dentists, you will be left without my money. But if you can make a lot of money by drilling teeth for all sorts of cretins who rush to the first dental clinic they come across, without making inquiries about it, then go for it. In general, think about how you can fit into the society of businessmen so as not to drag yourself along at the very back, picking up scraps. Yes, it is not for nothing that they say that a real business starts with a good idea, but unfortunately, few people clarify that only a mind free from slave thoughts and desires can give birth to this idea. To be one of many in business is equivalent to being one of many workers working in a company or a factory, where you can always be replaced by another worker module, and no one will even notice the difference. Today you are here, and tomorrow you are gone, and no one will even notice that you are gone, because you are a gray, simple module that does not stand out from the crowd. Therefore, a businessman with a slave mindset is not much different from a simple worker. He also plays by certain rules, only not for wages, but for profit, the size of which may not be so large as to differ significantly from wages. Well, so what if a worker goes to work by tram, and a simple businessman in his own car? All the same, they both go to work, that is, their goal is approximately the same. An ordinary businessman does not benefit much from his ordinary business, compared to an ordinary employee. Yes, he does not obey the employer, but he obeys the authorities, officials, cops, bandits, bureaucrats, in general, all those who like to suck the blood of fat sheep in the person of multi-membered businessmen who are not able to properly protect themselves. But real businessmen who, having taken up business, relatively quickly become medium, and then large businessmen, have completely different living conditions. They, of course, are not independent from everything and everyone, but they have far fewer monkeys sitting on their necks. They themselves are healthy to climb on other people's necks. There have always been few real businessmen. And simple business, which in most countries is constantly forced to survive, sooner or later gets boring for a person who values freedom and has a sense of self-worth. You see, friends, the soul asks for more. It calls a person to strive for something great. It tells him that he must realize all his genetically determined potential, and not act constantly according to the same algorithm in order to have the same result day after day, month after month, year after year. Business is not money. It is certain things that a person must do. A businessman creates assets, he makes money out of thin air. In business, flexibility of thinking, creativity are valued. Business is a game, an eternal game with circumstances, an eternal confrontation with brute, dull, bony force, in the person of power and the security forces fed by it. A real businessman can be compared to a young wolf. He must be aimed at displacing the old, seasoned leader from his place. But the young leader, having put the period like that, has already thought of how to remove me. Luna. Yes, exactly, remove friends. You must be able to remove competitors from your path. And it is precisely because of the lack of people with such ambitions that we are often forced to obey old senile people with conservative thinking, who force us to live by the rules of half a century ago. Monopolists are old leaders who over time lose their grip and whom you must be able to either bypass or knock down. Remember that those who have settled down well in life often want only one thing: for everything to remain as it is. And those who have nothing or have little, unfairly little, want change. So remember, friends, business begins with a person changing his thinking or with forming this thinking in the right way, if we are talking about a young person, and not with instructions and rules explaining what and how to do. A businessman's thinking should be free, creative, flexible, capable of solving any problems and understanding what exactly problems and why should be solved. And most importantly, a businessman should be sophisticated and purposeful. He should not get hung up on any one activity and do only it all his life, like an ordinary worker. A businessman can start by selling Chinese junk on the market, and end up selling oil, securities, money, high technology and great ideas. He must constantly grow and develop. A businessman, if he is a real businessman, and not a businessman, this is a predator, a wolf, or a shark, as you like. He does not think about money, but about what prevents him from earning it in large quantities. And if something prevents him from doing this, he looks for an opportunity to solve this problem. Not money, but the things that need to be done to earn a lot of money. That's what should interest a businessman. And he doesn't need rules and laws, because they only limit his opportunities. Rules, laws, instructions, ready-made schemes, plans. A strong person imposes all this on weak people in order to limit their opportunities for his own benefit. And a businessman must be able to bypass all these rules and laws. He must not break them. This is very important to understand, because a businessman is not a bandit. He does not break anything. He is a law-abiding citizen. And bypassing is what he must be able to do. And a businessman does not need any instructions. He must be able to invent them himself and impose them on other people so that they imitate him, and not he imitates them. But the most important thing for a businessman, where his success begins, is a free mind and a free soul.